Again.
And we welcome you to paradise, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Fort DeRussy Beach. A perfect setting to get the white volleyball rolling here in 1993. Smith, Randy Stoklos, Mike Whitmarsh, and Brian Lewis. A sexy six to start off the Pro Tour. As semifinal action beckons, Brian Lewis going to put the ball into play. Lewis and his big partner, Mike Whitmarsh, kind of the Mutton Jeff of the tour. A very talented team. Look at Brian Lewis, his only win, but it was a big one, a $30,000 win last year in Clearwater with his partner, Pat Powers. So Brian Lewis will serve first. What do Lewis and Whitmarsh have to do, Paul, to defeat Smith and Stoklos?
Lewis needs 5 aces, and Mike Whitmarsh has got to be an effective blocker and side out, even though Brian Lewis is only 6 feet tall. His much bigger partner will get most of the serve.
And as Paul told you, Brian Lewis has developed into the best jump server on the beach. Stoklos opening it up. Randy Stoklos is wearing red trunks. Powerfully built. He looks like he's in terrific shape, and you told me that you talked to Smith, St. John Smith, and he says he's in the best shape of his life. Stoklos 6'4", 220, now 32 years old. 113 total titles. He's won 112 with St. John Smith. So Smith will serve. Smith is now 35 years old. He is the all-time record holder in career titles at 133, but he has gone 20 tournaments, he and Stoklos, without winning.
That's a lifetime.
Hey. 1-0, Smith and Stoklos.
Oh, he talked about serving being a key factor for Brian Lewis. And Lewis, if you're wondering why he's such a great jump server, it's mostly because of velocity, but secondarily because of location. Smith, on the other hand, is virtually all location. That's a good call.
Double contact. Our first referee today is Bobby Clark. Bobby Clark is up, and our second official is dancing, Marvin Hall. Marvin Hall is the umpire. So, St. John Smith, his team leading by 2-0. It's 1 game to 15. There's a 9-minute clock. The clock is still with us, and it has really produced some exciting finishes this week.
Well, so many games later on in the tournament have indeed been decided by the clock, 8-7, 11-10, games like that. And I'm surprised because we're just in February, and the level of play is very, very good early in the season. Lots of side outs, lots of time going off on the clock. I'm surprised how many games have indeed been decided by the clock in Honolulu.
A net was called on that play, so Stoklos will jump serve up. His team ahead 2-0. Mike Whitmarsh. And Whitmarsh taps one out of bounds. It's been a long day for Mike Whitmarsh and Brian Lewis in the hot sun.
Well, it's been a hot day for everybody, particularly today. The last couple of days of the tournament, the weather a little overcast, a little breezier at times, but today very, very warm, and Brian Lewis decides to take a 20-second timeout, get his team refocused just a little bit. They're off to a very bad start.
4 20-second timeouts per team per game, plus 2 full timeouts. And Brian Lewis going to go over and straighten out the line and get it settled. The winner of this particular match plays Karch Karai and Kent Steffes. What a thriller they had against St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos in the winner's bracket.
Great match, overtime, 13 all. Kent Steffes had a shot to win it in regulation, missed it wide. We go to overtime. They went through 1 full side change rotation, and then Kent Steffes with the ace up the middle ended it. Just a great, great match. And the fans of Pro Beach Volleyball know how important it is to win the winner's bracket, because Karch Karai and Kent Steffes are sitting over in the shade in the players' tent or back in their air-conditioned hotel room, just relaxing, taking in a lot of fluids, getting a little something to eat, and focusing on the finals, whereas the rest of the competitors have to continue to play.
Stoklos off his good friend Brian Lewis and out of bounds. You can see the shape Randy's in. He is really carved and chiseled this year, and looking for a big comeback year along with his partner St. John Smith. St. John Smith going to be 36 on May 7th, but still holding up very, very well. Lewis and Smith has it. And he puts it away. Smith, if you look at Smith's physique, and I was taking a good look at it a little earlier, much bigger upper body. Look at his arms. His left arm and his right arm really pumped up from a season of, on off season, apparently lifting weights.
Well, he told me that in 11 years, this is the best he's felt coming into a season. His shoulder, the wrist surgery has been well documented, 2 operations on his wrist, and his legs are feeling very good as well. He used to have to take a lot of anti-inflammatory drugs because of the injury to the shoulder and elbow elbow and whatnot, and they caused him to be anemic a couple of seasons ago, and this is the first time that he's really been able to do his off-season jumps, his running, and work his arms to get strong for the season, and you got to do that the older you get.
Stoklos. And a nice dig by Lewis back over the net. It's 4-0 Smith Stoklos. And Stokey kabooms one. Stoklos got married on October 17th last year. Carrie Coffey. They were married at Alice's Restaurant in Malibu, California, honeymooned in Montana. Recently came back from a 3-week stay in Australia when they went down and had a little fun down there, down under. Lewis, dig by Smith. Chance to go to 5-zip. Smith got it. So St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos looking for a quickie here. Get out very, very fast. 7 minutes and 51 seconds left in this game. Smith Stoklos 5-zip. The seeds in the Miller Lite Honolulu Open, Cry and Steffes, Smith and Stoklos, Hovland Dodd third, Frohoff and Luty's just a point ahead of Whitmarsh and Lewis, Hanley Vandewey, Johnson and Timmons, Moodhart and Dan Verbalovich. You see how everybody finished. We'll try to update you on what's happening in this tournament, or what has happened in the tournament, I should say. 5-0 is our score. There's been a lot of action so far. We should tell you that Pat Powers had off-season knee surgery. He is out at least until July. Scott Akatebi is not yet able to make his return. He is training seriously down in Marine Street, and we may see him in the Florida tournaments, but he is getting better. So a couple of the big bombers off the tour, at least in this first tournament. Little tip shot. Whitmarsh is 6-7.
Gotta go, Randy.
Louis has it. Smith to convert. Not yet. Lewis. Can he put it away? Smith, can he put it away? Terrible set by Stoklos. This is the kind of round that really wears you out if you lose it.
Come on!
Off Stoklos, out of bounds. Brian Lewis. And Whitmarsh and Lewis score their first point. They trail 5-1 now.
Need something to get themselves going. Smith and Stoklos really had a chance, I think, to take complete control of the match early if they win this long rally. But Randy Stoklos, maybe a little rusty from surfing so much down in Australia, didn't set the ball that well to his partner, St. John Smith. But Randy told me, he says, look, we went down there for vacation. It was beautiful. My wife and I had a great time. But paddling is great therapy for my shoulder, and it's one of the most important things in my rehab program. And he looks big and strong.
Really pounding the ball. Of course, Randy hurt his shoulder in Fresno of last year, had arthroscopic surgery to his right shoulder.
You got to look for speed in an arm swing. A lot of people on the tour in throwing sports, baseball players, indoor volleyball players as well, have had shoulder surgery. When a player comes back, you look for velocity in their arm. That's the first thing that goes.
Smith with a dig.
Hit it, no one. Hit it! Come on. Watch him. Hey.
5-1 Smith Stoklos. Whitmarsh got it. Whitmarsh, 6'7", 210 pounds, is only his third year out of San Diego, California, the former basketball player, and learning how to play.
Had his first win last year with Brent Frohoff in New Orleans.
Over Kartskride, Kent Steffes, we should add. Whitmarsh off him, out of bounds. He never played indoor volleyball. He was a basketball player. He won in New Orleans, had 3 seconds, Fresno, Seal Beach, and Santa Cruz.
Had a good year and needs to be a dominant blocker. Has the physical ability. Because he's so big, you overlook his ability to jump. Really has good springs, sets the ball pretty well for someone still new to the game. And I just think if he can become a dominant blocker like a Kartskride, like a Randy Stoklos, into the Tim Hovland mold, then Lewis and Mike Whitmarsh will be a very good team all year.
And one thing about Brian Lewis's team, whenever he is down, he can crank off aces in a hurry. Stoklos. And Stoklos showing power, puts it away.
Randy Stoklos receives serve with a lot of spin, sometimes a hard ball to set. And St. John Smith said, look, all I try to do is bump the ball straight up in the air and give Stoklos something to swing at. And last year, his shoulder just was so injured, he couldn't make the kinds of adjustments to get to those sets.
Whitmarsh. And Smith, that's a double. That should have been a good play. And Bobby Clark says that is not a hard-driven ball, so you cannot double.
Yeah, I agree with Bobby, by the way. I think that was a shot down the line. If on a hard-driven ball,
he's hitting it down though, isn't he?
Well, he's 6'7" and he jumps well, but it was not a hard-driven ball, in my opinion. It was just a shot down the line, and St. John contacted it twice.
Whitmarsh serving. It's 5-1 Smith Stoklos with a 4-point lead. And off the hands of Whitmarsh. When in doubt, hit at the big guy.
As he backs up, and St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos, all the top players for that matter, have what we call great trouble shots. That was not a great set, not a good pass to start the rally by St. John Smith, but the good cut shot down, the slice shot down the line gets them out of trouble for the good side out.
Stoklos. And Stoklos' jump serve goes long. Stoklos a very effective jump server also. And once again, Brian Lewis going to crank it up.
Something that was missing from Stoklos' repertoire most of last year because of the shoulder problems, and it really hurt their overall game.
Lewis. Good pass by Smith. And Louis out of bounds. Good try. Brian Lewis, an avid surfer. He told me he has 8 surfboards. 8 surfboards for any kind of waves. And he says, after the tournament today, I'm going over to the North Shore because the surf is really up here in Hawaii.
We heard 15. We had confirmations of 10 to 12. And Brian Lewis and Randy Stoklos probably be out there at sunset.
Very nice block by Randy Stoklos. If you're wondering why Smith and Stoklos will serve it to Whitmarsh when he's so much bigger and stronger, Whitmarsh has had a history of heat dehydration problems.
Well, and also, Mike Whitmarsh is a pretty easy hitter to read at this stage of his career. You know, he slices away from his body and he rolls over the top. And Smith and Stoklos feel that they have a bigger advantage against Whitmarsh than they do against Lewis in terms of defensive strategy.
Mike Whitmarsh, big and powerful, a tremendous athlete. Single game scoring leader at the University of San Diego. Once scored 42 in a game. Stoklos with a save. And Stoklos unloads. So Randy Stoklos in the first tournament of the year, unloading. Smith and Stoklos have owned this tournament for the last 5 years.
You know, I think Randy coming out really hard in this tournament, not only to try to win, that's obvious, but to try to reestablish himself. I think, you know, when you have an injury like that, really the first big injury that he's had to deal with in his career, you have to question, you know, how much longer can you play? Can you still play against the top guys? And Stoklos is coming out bombing away, jump serving hard, and siding out extremely well.
Ryan back to serve.
So Lewis will serve. Whitmarsh positions himself at the net. It's 6-1. Smith and Stoklos lead it. Working on Smith. And Smith showing some heat.
Off the block.
There's a break in the action. Under 6 minutes to play. Smith Stoklos by 5. We'll be right back. Chris Marlowe back with Paul Sunderland, the Miller Lite Hawaiian Open. St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos, Brian Lewis, and Mike Whitmarsh. That's another point tacked on to the score of Smith Stoklos. They are ahead by 6, 7-1 now here in our semifinal. Winner goes on to play Karch Karai and Kent Steffes.
Lewis and Whitmarsh, 3 unforced errors early in the match. Smith and Stoklos, as you might expect, none.
Come on, Kevin, again.
Little tip. Stoklos could have played that up had he gotten there. You can play it twice off the block.
Whitmarsh
would count as 2 touches, just as a reminder. The indoor game, be it high school, college, in the Olympics, whatever, the touch off the block does not count as one against one of your 3 contacts, but on the beach it does.
Doing a lot of serving to St. John Smith, and he cranks it down. So Smith gets his kill.
Randy going back
Smith out of UCLA. Last year he won, well, kind of a paltry sum for him, $135,000 and change. Well, I'd take it. You wouldn't, Mr.
Right.
Moneybags,
right. And St. John dropped down to number 8 on the money list. Randy Stoklos a bit higher at number 6. Those because of different results in the King of the Beach tournament at the end of the year. But they were 7 and 8 on the computer respectively, and that's a bad year for Smith and Stoklos.
And double contact call. I think a good call on Bobby Clark.
Double hit, Randy. Your right hand
serving 7 now the score.
Good call right in front of us.
There we go. double hit.
Ball handling at times has been a little bit rough from the setting position for a lot of players on the beach. It's very early. And there you can see, for one of the few times, very difficult to discern on the replay the transfer from right to left. But you could really see it. Their right hand contacted it first, and then the left pushed it away. That was a good call.
Lewis cranking. Point coming up, yes. So Brian Lewis dials up an ace, or a service winner at least, and his big partner Mike Whitmarsh puts it away. So there's a side change and a timeout. Whitmarsh and Lewis trying to claw back. However, they still trail Smith Stoklos by 4. We are back. We have mentioned that St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos have been in a slump in terms of wins. Only 3 wins in the last 34 tournaments. They haven't won since April 12th, the day I got married. 8 straight losses in the finals. No disgrace, though. Most of those losses coming to the one team they have not been able to beat, Karch-Kiraly and Kent Steffes.
The record of Kiraly and Steffes over Smith and Stoklos, they played 6 times last year. Kiraly and Steffes won every match that was played in the finals last year.
Good crowd on hand here at Fort DeRussy Beach. We're right outside the beautiful Hilton Hawaiian Village Hotel. It's been so gracious this week, putting up the players, the Pro Bowlers, and coping with the groupies, etc., and the fans.
We went out to dinner with a couple of friends the other night, Chris and Beth McLaughlin. They said, boy, it was so cold here the other night. It was 60 degrees. It was a 2-blanket night.
You see,
it's summer year-round in Honolulu.
Summer crowd cranked in here, the first AVP tournament of the year. And this is semifinal action. St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos going up against Brian Lewis and Mike Whitmarsh. So St. John Smith will put the ball in play.
Remember when they used to play this tournament in June or July later on in the season? It was so hot here. Yeah. Obviously beautiful, great place to come vacation, go surfing, go for a swim. But it was over 100 degrees on the court easily. Very tough conditions.
You got that tournament changed because you got so sunburned you couldn't do anything, could you?
And I wasn't even playing.
Good put away on the right side. And Mike Whitmarsh will have the ball. Interestingly, as recently as 1979, when Mike Whitmarsh was in junior high, he was 5'10", 140 pounds. By the end of that year, he had grown to 6'5". As the big Whit up high. Did he get it? No, off his hands, out of bounds.
Well, like his volleyball career, he takes big jumps, either in height, stature, or in the standings in a hurry. He had a good year last year and a constantly improving player.
Trouble. Oh, and Stoklos can't get there. Smith going Randy, but
I don't think Randy bought into the fact that that ball was passed over the net from the very get-go. There are 2 options there. Randy Stoklos is jump serving, so his momentum is carrying him forward towards that play. Smith has got to call it in any case, so he calls for his partner, or St. John, who's nearer the net, goes over and plays it himself.
Lewis down the line to Smith. It's 7-3.
Come on.
And could be 7-4. Coming up, Lewis.
Can you?
No, he missed it.
Brian Lewis has missed that shot 6 or 7 times, either against Hovland and Dodd, a match they eventually won. And this is the first time he's missed it here. Something he's been working on. It looks like a new slice cut shot across, all the way across the net, but that would have gotten them back in this game.
Here comes Whitmarsh.
Hey, Randy, come on.
Smith with a dig.
Gotta get up line.
That's too tight.
Tip. Got it. Brian Lewis with a nice little knuckle shot. And a side out.
As soon as that ball was set by Mike Whitmarsh, you knew it was near trouble. Much too close to the net, too close to the hands of the blocker, Randy Stoklos, and Lewis just able to pokey the ball by.
Brian Lewis voted the most improved AVP player last year, and you can see why with those numbers, 22-11. We're under 5 minutes to play. Smith and Stoklos by 4.
Come on.
And over the top, St. John Smith. A number of players have told me that he sees the court better than anybody.
Well, for 2 reasons. 3, I think, now that I analyze it a little bit further. First of all, he passes the ball on the dime, so he doesn't have to worry about where Randy Stoklos is going to go. He can focus on the court then. And then Stoklos is still, I think, the best setter, most consistent setter. So that's a level of comfort where he can just focus on the trajectory of the ball and then go look at the court. Brian Lewis trying to do the same thing. You see the bump set coming off the net. And then St. John Smith is just a great master of all the shots. Good cut shot, line shot, loopy. So you add the passing, setting, years of experience, and the good innate hitting skills, and St. John very, very consistent.
Brian Lewis, his team trailing by 4, 7-3.
Oh, come on.
And Stoklos going over on 2. You saw that graphic a moment ago. Mike Normand was St. John Smith's first partner. I saw Storm and Normand. He lives now here in Hawaii. He's got a mustache, a little gray hair, still can jump, and a new little baby. I think it's a baby boy, wasn't it? Didn't have any hair yet. I think it's a baby boy. He was wearing blue. I got to get used to that. Nice dig by Stoklos. And Lewis, yes. You call that a block, Paul Sunderland?
Yeah, why not? Louis doesn't get very many throughout the course of the year. He only finds himself up there maybe a dozen times all season long, so you give him a block. Nice dig here by Randy Stoklos. And St. John Smith is just trying to get the ball anywhere but right on top of the net. Just give his partner Randy Stoklos some swinging room, but that ball blew on top of the tape.
Smith and off Whitmarsh, and still Mike Whitmarsh with no stuff blocks. Lewis has 1. Smith and Stoklos, Randy Stoklos has 1.
Whitmarsh is getting his hands on lots of balls, but blocking is one of the most difficult skills to learn, difficult skills to perfect. And right now, not turning those touches into stuff.
Stoklos with a dig, nicely done, and Whitmarsh can't get there. So Randy Stoklos with a beautiful dig, the knuckle by Smith. And once again, the lead is 5. Smith Stoklos 8, Whitmarsh Lewis 3.
Well, right now, Smith Stoklos, they may have faltered just a little bit in their side-out game, but just too consistent. The pokey there by St. John Smith, we talked about his ability for location, reading the situation, just finding some open court.
And a timeout taken by Mike Whitmarsh and Brian Lewis. So we'll take a timeout. Smith and Stoklos here in our semifinal in Honolulu are in command. Randy Stoklos with the serve back at the Miller Lite Hawaiian Open. I'm Chris Marlowe along with Paul Sunderland. 4 minutes and 15 seconds left to go in this game. Smith Stoklos by 5. They just looked a little better.
Well, they've been siding out more consistently, and Mike Whitmarsh making some hitting errors, and Brian Lewis's serving has yet to be a factor. I said he needed 4 or 5 aces. Now he's going to the sky ball from the bad side.
As they try to shovel it up to Stoklos, and Stoklos pounds another one through. So Randy Stoklos looking great here early in Hawaii.
St. John Smith back to
I think
serve.
Smith and Stoklos have talked about their streak, about their slump, that they want to make amends and come out and play well this year.
Yes, I think they have. When I talked to St. John on the phone last week, he was very aware of where Randy was, what he was doing training-wise, how his shoulder was feeling, and you know, people think there's animosity between them because they get on each other so much on the court, but I've seen them together this week here in Honolulu, and I think the rapport between them is as good as ever. Of course, it would get better and better should they win 4 or 5 tournaments in a row.
That team has won more tournaments together than any other team in history. 112 for Smith Stoklos. Whitmarsh has won 1, and Lewis has won 1. A total of 2, and not together.
And I think that'll change this year if Whitmarsh and Lewis stay together all season long, and Whitmarsh becomes or moves into the elite group of blockers. They'll win at least 1 tournament together this year.
Kerry Stoklos in the green hat, and Patty Robinson Smith in the purple visor, the 2 lovely wives of St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos.
Good touching. Okay.
What a tournament to show up. You know, one thing about those 2, you never see them in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Where are they when we get to Milwaukee?
You don't see them in Cleveland, and you don't see them in a couple of other spots along the way, but you see them in Honolulu, and the Stokloses, of course, are on their way back from Australia, so the tough off-season life of pro beach volleyball players who make a lot of money.
Now, we should tell you there's nothing wrong with Cleveland. We personally love Nautica at the Flats, but it's not Honolulu or what. 20-second timeout taken by Smith Stoklos. Last year, who won the most tournaments? Yes, Karch, Karai, Kent Steffes. That tied a record set by Smith and Stoklos back in 1986. 16, Smith and Stoklos a couple. Johnson and Steffes 2 early ones. Dodd and Powers, Frohoff and Ludes got their first win together ever. Frohoff won 1 with Whitmarsh.
Injury timeout.
I guess Brett Frohoff showing he's a little more versatile than a lot of people give him credit. Can play both sides.
On the court.
Okay. They'll discuss things at the net. We'll sort it out for you. 9-3, Smith and Stokey. in hot Honolulu, Hawaii. Mike Whitmarsh, we've documented his heat problems in the past.
Stoklos
It
serving.
appears now, at least moments ago, that he had back spasms. And the beach doctors were out there, Dr. Doug Anderson, Dr. Keith Fader, and they did a good job. Now Whit is back. They took a 5-minute timeout. An injury timeout for Whitmarsh. Now, normally he's had problems with dehydration and cramps, and he's been trying to change his diet and work on that, and that's something he has to deal with.
Well, and also the players serve Mike Whitmarsh primarily because Brian Lewis is so good at siding out. So after 3 days of tournament play, I didn't see him take a fall or land awkwardly. I just think that he's tired right now from all of the jumping and all the work that he's doing and getting hurt. But ever since he went down with back spasms, he blocks the ball and looks good hitting cross court. Sometimes you get a little bit of an injury and you take a little pressure off yourself. The expectations change. But that's a nice aggressive move by Whitmarsh taking the line.
For once, I agree with you completely. He's relaxed a little now. He's not thinking so much. He barely got over the net and he stuffed one straight down. So maybe this will help Mike Whitmarsh. 9-3 when he had the back spasms. And now it is 9-4 as Smith goes over the top.
Smith and Stoklos. St. John coming back to serve.
I wrote that one down, by the way. You said that was the first time you'd ever agreed with me.
Well, it's the first time you've been right. As you look at Whitmarsh, who has gotten a little dough increased.
No one.
Great.
Another dig by Stoklos.
Line.
And he taps it over the
Over the
top.
block by Stoklos. Good for the
Randy
point.
Stoklos
10
going
looking
over Brian Lewis.
at
They are
4.
surfing buddies in the offseason.
Well, the rivalry got heated up a little bit last year, though. I mean, you're buddies until somebody starts to really compete head-to-head with you, and Brian Lewis proved that last year. They may surf a little bit together now, but respectful on the court, maybe not quite as friendly.
Whitmarsh going right over the top. It's a 6-point lead for
out. Big Mike will go back to serve.
St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos.
Today with Minnesota Timberwolves. We're coming out here playing on the AVP.
And just over 3 minutes to play in this game. Karchkarai and Kent Steffes will be by a little later, playing our final. And the way Smith and Stoklos are playing, they will give them a good match.
Well, they did in the finals of the winners bracket, 14-13. We talked about that in overtime when it came down to an ace serve by Kent Steffes. But Smith and Stoklos showed an ability to side out, an ability to score. That's tight.
And Stokey is right there. He's going to boom this one. No, he changes up down the line, and suddenly Smith and Stoklos are ahead 11-4.
Taking 4-4. Whitmarsh and Lewis. 11-4.
So another side change coming, and the Stoklos-led team is out by 7. Back in Honolulu, Hawaii, Smith and Stoklos leading in our semifinal by 7, 11-4. There is one brand new team on the beach. Adam Johnson playing with Steve Timmons this year. We call him the hair pair. Different reasons, different styles. And another former Trojan out on tour is Brian Ivey. Remember the U.S. Olympic team? Remember he hurt his knee, and he finished 9th with Eric Fanoy Moana, a very talented player, and will be one of the players that will be considered for Rookie of the Year. Fanoy Moana out of UC Santa Barbara.
Fanoy Moana and Brian Ivey, a solid team. Fanoy Moana, I asked him, I said, how long are you going to keep Brian Ivey out on the beach? He said, I hope all summer. But Brian Ivey right now in negotiations with the U.S. Olympic team to go back to San Diego, rejoin the team. And so far they have not worked things out financially, but Brian told me that he does think he will end up playing on the national team and won't play too many tournaments out on the beach this year.
Smith with a fabulous dig. Whit has it and sneaks it over and out. So St. John Smith, who can forget his 3 successive digs last year against Adam Johnson and Kent Steffes that pulled that one out. As time ran out, 12-4, Smith and Stoklos are ahead. Randy Stoklos, his 1992 AVP final ranking on the computer, number 4. Make that number 3, excuse me. Smith was number 4. Whitmarsh.
And I mentioned earlier that they were 7 and 8, but that was in terms of prize money. Didn't win the big money tournaments last year that would have boosted them ahead, but 3rd and 4th on the computer.
Brian Lewis told me an interesting story last night. He said he had an opportunity to play with Tim Hovland last year. He was playing with Whitmarsh. When Hovland asked him, he told Whitmarsh, Whit, what can I do? Hovland's won 59 tournaments. You've won 1, and I've won 1. I got to play with him. So he ended up playing with Hovland for a few tournaments, then was dumped by the Hov, and has made full circle. He's back around to Whitmarsh again.
And Whitmarsh was not happy at all about that separation, but bygones are bygones when it comes into putting together.
Oh, Smith! What a play by St. John Smith.
Like days of old, and now getting more than a decade and some running around out on the Pro Beach Tour. Look at St. John Smith. Not only there, but that was on purpose. That was shooting the ball over.
Shot!
Lewis
Shot!
cut inside.
Smith and Stoklos have been very businesslike in their approach. Whitmarsh obviously struggling because of the back and whatnot, but Smith-Stoklos want to get this match over with, get as much rest as they possibly can before they meet Karch-Kiraly Kent Steffes in the finals.
Whitmarsh is there, shanked it a bit.
Tight stat.
And a nice, easy play for Brian Lewis. Lewis worked out very, very hard in the offseason. He's in top shape. One of the best conditioned pros on tour.
Goes down to State Beach, just north of Los Angeles, and trains. Doesn't just go out and play games, does a lot of drills, stays strong, and certainly deserved being named the most improved player last year.
13-5 is our score as Stoklos. Pretty back set, but Brian Lewis gets his second stuff block.
And Mike Whitmarsh has 0. We talked about 2 keys for Lewis and Whitmarsh to be competitive in this match and certainly have a good chance to pull through and go to the finals. And one was Brian Lewis's serving. We haven't had too much of that. And the other was Mike Whitmarsh's blocking. We haven't had any of that.
Shot down the side.
Stoklos thunders one through. The first man ever to win $1 million. He did it during the 1992 season. He was the first player, followed right behind by St. John Smith.
Nobody there.
Lewis got it.
Brian Lewis powers it deep in the court. Good for the side out.
I'm surprised that Smith and Stoklos aren't being careful to get every ball to Mike Whitmarsh right now. Really make him work. He's injured the back. He's got to be tired from all the work he does blocking.
Big and strong. And getting better every year.
You got it.
Stoklos chases it down. See how Whit handles this one. Will he go for the bomb?
No one hit.
Yes. And this is what Smith and Stoklos did not want. They do not want to be dragged out into a long semifinal. They have a big lead over Whitmarsh and Lewis. Now the big question when we come back, can they put Whit and Louie away? We are back in Honolulu, Hawaii. Chris Marlowe along with Paul Sunderland, Smith and Stoklos in control here in our semifinal. They lead by 6. What a way to start off the 1993 Pro Tour in conjunction with the Pro Bowl. A big crowd is out assembled, watching the best beach volleyball players in the world do their thing. Brian Lewis and Mike Whitmarsh really never had a chance in this one. They got behind 6-1. And Smith and Stoklos drew out 13-4. Whit and Louie coming back just a bit. And it is now 13-7. Smith and Stoklos trying to close them out quickly here and get on with Kiraly Steffes. Stoklos got it.
Short shot by Stoklos.
Smith and Stoklos winners of 5 straight. Hawaiian Open, 7 out of the last 8. Why do they play so well here, do you suppose?
Well, this tournament becomes so early. The main portion of the season starts in March, and I say that because they have some of the best ball control, and they have it just innately, and they've worked on it and developed it for years and years and years, and I think they can come out and play at a higher level early than almost anybody else.
Lewis trying to save a point here, and he can't. So St. John Smith and Randy Stoklos, you can hear Stoklos saying, way to move, and now it is 14-7, game point coming up. So Smith will serve it up. 17th year as a professional beach volleyball player. Everybody says, when are you going to retire? He says, forget it.
But he told me that he thinks he could play until he was 40. Knows how to take care of himself. And you know what's the remarkable thing through all those years, with all the injuries, all the neoprene sleeves and bandages and tape and, you know, all the other things that he's had to go through, he's never missed a tournament because of injury.
Smith. And right there is Whitmarsh. Bad play by Lewis. That's the kind of play that he chastised his old partner, Pat Powers, for doing. A little double dip on 2 as Stoklos gets a kill with a 2-hand shot.
Well, this one's just lingering death. Mike Whitmarsh, you know, impossible for them to make a comeback now with the fatigue and injury to Mike Whitmarsh, and just trying to get it over with at this point.
Game point number 2. And Smith and Stoklos, I don't know why Smith and Stoklos do this strategy. When they get a big lead, they're trying to get in and get some shade protection, that Stoklos all of a sudden stops blocking.
Well, and to complicate matters, you got to serve Mike Whitmarsh every ball at this point.
Why? Just because he's having back problems and he's tired? No way.
Those are 2 pretty good reasons.
Stoklos? I'll tell you, I have to say, I had a chance to play a couple games over at the Outrigger Club, and I'm glad I'm not playing anymore because it is brutal.
Yeah.
If you have ever crossed the beach when it's 80, 90 degrees and that sun is out, it is very, very difficult to play in these conditions. Smith and Stoklos as they go into the net. Of course, it's hotter here in Hawaii because we are closer to the equator. The sun much more intense. At least that's what the locals tell me. You buy that?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, just look at the globe. I mean, Hawaii is farther south and it's hotter, but Stoklos has been in Australia the last couple of weeks. That's the southern hemisphere. It's the middle of their summer, so he's used to the weather.
Hot down there.
Yeah, and St. John Smith, we've never seen him cramp. And I think he just has an incredible mental toughness, for one thing, and an ability to pace himself. And he takes great care of himself during the course of the tournament. You never see him walking around during the course of playing. You know, he just stays in the tent, stays in the shade, and gets his fluids.
4th chance to put it away, and this could be it. Lewis, and that will do it. So St. John and Stoklos, they do what they do best, taking care of business. We've got Paul Sunderland on the way to try to catch him. We're coming back. More AVP Pro Beach Volleyball coming up after this.